Welcome everyone to the Koenigsegg press conference at the 2014 Geneva Auto Salon. This is a very big year for us as it's 20 years anniversary since I got the crazy idea to start my own car company. I was only 22 at the time. It was 12th of August 1994. I had decided to fulfill my long-term dream since I was a young boy at the age of 6 when I saw a Norwegian kind of a stop-motion puppet movie about a bicycle repairman that built himself an extreme race car and competed against the establishment of the world and won on a local racetrack. So I was totally fascinated by this movie, and ever since that day I started studying anything I could find about cars with the goal of building my own cars as soon as I had a chance. So I was a very ambitious young boy, I guess, at 22 to think I could ever get away with starting a car company and build cars. But I felt I had ideas that I needed to realize, and it was pretty much a now or never moment when I thought, if I wait, I will not do it. I have to do it when I'm young. This will take a long time and it will be very, very difficult. I also knew that most startups in this industry fail. It's a very traditional industry, and all the competitors and all the established companies have been going for 50, 60 years or whatever, and it's almost impossible to start a company. So I spent a lot of time analyzing how could that all be possible, why do others fail, and what can I do different. And the basic thing I came to, the basic conclusion I came to, okay, it is impossible, so it's good I know it's impossible, so at least I understand the prerequisites to get into this business. So I guess that made me quite resilient to the impossible tasks at hand of going from an idea to actually delivering homologated production cars to the world market. It took me and my small team 2 years to build the first prototype. That was ready in 1996. I was kind of devastated because I had the ambition to finish something drivable in 1 year. Now that I look back, I can't even understand how we could do it in 2 years with 4 or 5 people involved. It was just amazing. Of course, it was a very rough prototype, not at all as refined as what we see here today, but it was still drivable and it's still in existence today, and it was a lot of fun to drive, and we got positive feedback, so that spurred us on to keep on going. It took until 2002 until we delivered the first production car, which was the CC8S. I understood that in order to find interest for an unknown brand from Sweden, we had to create something unique and special. So we managed to put together a carbon fiber car, very light, with a detachable hardtop that you can stow in the front of the car. And we managed to get a Guinness World Record for the most powerful production car in the world. At that time it meant we needed 655 horsepower to break the record. And many people at the time thought, wow, that's way too much for such a small light car. That must be impossible to drive, and no one needs that kind of horsepower. Looking back now, we know that even a Mercedes E-Class AMG has something similar and is considered completely normal. So things have really moved on. So from 2002, we went on, and then we made a CCR model in 2004, 2005, and we broke our own horsepower record with 806 horsepower, and we also managed to go very fast at the Nardo racetrack, reaching 388 kilometers and becoming the world's fastest production car at the time. It was a short-lived record, as our friends next door here, Bugatti, managed to drive even faster by quite a margin, but it was still something we were very proud of, and something unique for a small company to achieve. In 2006, we wanted to expand our business as we saw that the US market was a very, well, it was the world's biggest market for extreme sports cars. So we took a deep breath and redeveloped our concept into the CCX. It was still a car that had similar lines and features to our first prototype, but it was through and through a complete new car with a new monocoque chassis, bigger interior, new glass area. Everything was a little bit bigger and better, and also built to comply with US regulation. And we had a really nice run in the US between 2006 to 2008 with that model, and in the rest of the world. But then the economic crisis came and pretty much the US market stopped for us. Luckily enough, other parts of the world prospered and China came along, and that's now one of our biggest markets as well. We did a new take on our concept back in 2010 at the Geneva Motor Show, where we presented the Agera R range of car, which is again a very evolutionary step from the CCX and the CCXR model we had previously. And last year we presented our 100th production car since 2002, and that car we actually started building in 2012. So we called it 0 to 100 in 10 years, 0 to 100 cars in 10 years. And that's of course a very, very limited production volume for any car manufacturer over a period of 10 years. But in our small niche, if we consider car manufacturers only producing extreme sports cars and not other sports car manufacturers which does it from time to time, maybe every 10th year, we're actually one of the third biggest players in the world, and that's pretty crazy considering that low volume. So that kind of explains how small this market is as well. And it's really, really a niche. And 2 years ago, we got a request from our Chinese dealer, FFF, that said, even though your cars are fast and fantastic and so on, we would like something more track focused, which is kind of designed to go ultimate on the track. Our range normally is to be try to be as good as everything. It should be good at the track, but also really good on the road and so on. So we created the 1-to-1 and a very limited edition. So it's a track-focused car with the capability of going over 2 Gs in the corner. It's very powerful because we had the ambition to create the world's first true 1-to-1 car power-to-weight ratio when it comes to horsepower and kilos. So we had to fight really, really hard to reach that goal. It's about 80 kilos lighter than our normal cars. We had to change the carbon fiber type to a newer, later grade, which is used in Formula 1 today, re-engineer all the layup schemes in the body and the monocoque. We have put more titanium. We have lightened everything we can find. Is thinner glass area, thinner, lighter seats with memory foam, just really optimizing everything. So even though we've added around 30 kilos in active features like active ride height, active shock absorbers, active aerodynamics underneath the front, active rear wing, 3G connectivity where we can download new data to the car to improve them over time and listen to customer feedback, and even give them track setup data over 3G. Even including all of this, it's 80 kilos lighter than our normal cars. And we managed to pump up the power of the engine even further by strengthening the block, changing head gaskets, head stud bolts, valve train, valve drive, injectors, our newly patented, Koenigsegg patented variable turbo geometry to have a good spool up at low RPM. We managed to create a car with 1,360 horsepower, 1,360 kilos with a tank of fuel, all the liquids inside, ready to drive. So this is something we're very, very proud of. Of course, it's also going to be a very fast car in a straight line. We think it's probably the world's fastest car in a straight line, but that's not the objective of this car. It's to excel on racetracks and be really nice to drive on the normal roads. That's what it's about. So we're only producing 6 production cars on top of this development car that we built to initiate the program and to have a testing car within the factory. They're all pre-sold, so unfortunately this is a car that cannot be bought from us, but we're very proud to show it to you here today. Okay, so let's get the cover off. Gentlemen, go ahead. So as you can see, it bears very many similarities to our Agera Ranger car, which is it based on. But there are many details pretty much everywhere that are different. If we start at the front, we have this enormous front splitter and side winglets to create even more downforce. We have new air outlets in the front bonnet, which takes up some luggage space and means we cannot stow the roof in the front like our normal cars. So we prioritize downforce over a little bit practicality with the roof. And that made it possible for us to put this ram air scoop, where there is normally a glass area, to increase the fresh air breathing for the engine, as we did not have to stow it in the front anymore. It is still detachable, the roof, but it's now structurally integrated into the chassis via high-strength bolts. So it actually brings more rigidity to the chassis than otherwise. This huge rear wing is quite unique. It's, as far as we are aware, the world's first top-mounted active rear wing. So the reason why it's top-mounted is because the underside of the wing is the most important for aerodynamics to create downforce. It's the equivalent of the top side of an airplane wing. So many Le Mans cars, they have pylons going up like this and going over to avoid disturbing the flow underneath the wing. We took that a step further, making the pylons going forward to have an even cleaner air path underneath the wing, and these also act as stabilizers at high speed. And as I said, we believe it's the world's first active top-mounted rear wing. It can move depending on the speed of the car, and depending on if you're braking. We have an air brake feature here, so but it's a little bit different to other air brakes because we don't go over the point of maximum downforce. We find the point where we have maximum drag in combination with downforce, so we increase the grip of the rear tires during braking. So the whole car can change in rake and height depending on where you are. This is a track mode setup right now, so it's very low. Maybe my colleague will race it through the 3D connectivity, we will see. So you can see it in normal ride height mode as well. It's going up here, as you can see. So we also have a lifting system on top of this if you have to go over curbs. And when it goes up, it also becomes softer in spring ratio and shock absorber settings. So it's truly very active. Underneath the front splitter, there are also active flaps left and right to increase or decrease downforce at high speed, and they can also act individually. I will open up the engine bay so you get to have a look there as well, and the front. We have new seats which weighs under 10 kilos with 6-point racing harnesses. They also incorporate memory foam, so they're comfortable to a wider range of size of people. And you're really locked into the seat of the memory foam, so really very comfortable for long drives. They're also ventilated straight through the seat, so you can see straight through them, so you don't get too warm driving on a racetrack. I will open the front as well, you can see. Please, one colleague. Open it. So we've also gone extensively with 3D printing on this car. For example, the exhaust end piece is printed in titanium, very thin structure. It's one of the largest printed titanium parts around. It's made by a Swedish company called Arcam, and it saves about 500 grams compared to our machined aluminium counterpart. Also, if you look at our engine stand next to me to the right, you can see our new variable geometry turbo, which we have a patent for, which makes the power range even more wide than it otherwise could be. So I think that's all I have to say this year. I thank you very much for taking the time to come and have a look at this. Please feel free to move around and have a closer look, and also if you're up for some champagne. So thank you very much and enjoy the Geneva Motor Show.